Okay, so we all know the story, don't we? Lucifer, the most beautiful, most powerful angel, gets consumed by pride, decides to rebel against God, and is dramatically cast out of heaven to become Satan, the ultimate villain. It's a story that's everywhere.
But what if I told you that story, the one we all know so well, isn't actually in the Bible? At least, not in the way we usually tell it. What if it's more of a mashup of different texts, layered with centuries of interpretation? Let's dive in and see what the original sources actually say.
All right, so where does this whole idea even come from? Our investigation really starts in one place, a single chapter in the Old Testament, Isaiah, chapter 14. This is ground zero for the whole concept of Lucifer's fall.
And boom, here it is, the verse that pretty much launched the whole legend, especially in the King James Version. "O Lucifer, son of the morning." I mean, it seems pretty cut and dry, right? A guy named Lucifer fell from heaven, case closed. But not so fast. The real secret, the key to unlocking this, isn't in this one line. It's in everything around it.
And this is where things get really interesting. If you just back up a few verses in that same chapter, the text tells you exactly what's going on. It says this whole passage is a taunt against the king of Babylon. Yep, a human king. This isn't a story about some cosmic angel rebellion. It's basically ancient political satire. It's a diss track mocking a super arrogant human ruler.
And it gets even clearer when you go back to the original Hebrew, because the word we now read as Lucifer, well, it wasn't a name at all. The phrase is Hillel ben Shakar. It literally means shining one, son of the dawn. It's a title, a poetic description for how brilliant and powerful this king thought he was. It's more like calling someone Mr. Big Shot, not a proper name.
So, you're probably wondering, how in the world do we get from Hillel to Lucifer? Well, that happened centuries later, during the Latin translation. A scholar named Jerome picked the Latin word Lucifer, which means light bearer or morning star, a common term for the planet Venus. It was actually a brilliant translation of the idea of a shining one. The problem is, over time, people forgot it was a description and started reading it as a proper name.
Okay, so the who in this verse isn't an angel named Lucifer, it's a description of a Babylonian king. Got it. But what about the what? What does it actually mean that he has fallen from heaven?
Again, we have to go back to the original Hebrew. The verb used here is nafal. Now, when we hear fall from heaven, we picture this epic, violent expulsion, right? But napal is a much more normal word. Its primary meaning is just to descend, to collapse, or to be brought low, to be humbled. Think less cosmic battle, more epic fail.
And you see this word nafpal all over the Bible, used in really everyday ways. An ox can nafpal into a ditch. Soldiers nafpal in battle. Abram even nafpal on his face to worship. It's all about a change in status or position, coming down from high to low, literally or figuratively.
So, let's put it all together for Isaiah 14. The shining one, the super proud king of Babylon, has been humbled. He's been brought low. He has fallen from his high and mighty position. It's a political takedown, not a supernatural war.
But hold on, you might be thinking, I'm sure the Bible talks about Satan getting kicked out of heaven somewhere. And you're absolutely right, it does. This is the crucial part. When we put those passages side by side with Isaiah, everything clicks into place.
Now, let's jump over to the book of Revelation. The vibe is totally different. We're told the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan. See that? First, it explicitly names Satan. And second, that wording, hurled down, that sounds way more violent and deliberate, doesn't it?
And this, right here, is the smoking gun. This is the big aha moment. The Hebrew word in Isaiah is naphal, to descend, to be humbled. The Greek word in Revelation is balo, which means to throw, to cast, to hurl something with force. These are not just two ways of saying the same thing. They are two totally different words, describing two totally different actions in two totally different contexts.
So let's just lay it all out on the table. In Isaiah 14, the subject is the king of Babylon, and the action is being humbled. In a similar passage in Ezekiel, it's about the king of Tyre. In Luke, Jesus sees Satan's authority fall like lightning during his disciples' ministry, and then you have Revelation, where the dragon, Satan, is violently hurled down. When you see it like this, it's pretty clear these are not all telling the same story.
Okay, so if the original texts are all talking about different things, how on earth did we end up with this one single epic story of Lucifer the fallen angel?
Well, that's where history and interpretation come into play.
For a long time, these texts were understood separately, but starting around the 2nd century, influential writers and theologians, like a guy named Origen, started connecting the dots. They saw the story of the proud king in Isaiah as a perfect metaphor for Satan's own pride and fall. They wove the stories together, and by the time you get to the Middle Ages, that idea was basically set in stone. Lucifer had become just another name for Satan.
So let's just recap what the text actually says, point by point. 1. The Bible never uses Lucifer as a name for Satan, period. 2. Isaiah 14 is a taunt song about the king of Babylon. 3. The fall in that passage means humbled, not violently kicked out. And 4. The actual violent expulsion of Satan is a totally separate story in Revelation, using completely different words.
So what's the bottom line? The epic story of Lucifer's fall is an incredibly powerful and influential story. But it's a tradition. It's a masterpiece of theological interpretation built over centuries by weaving together different threads. It's not, however, a story that's told directly in the Bible in that way.
And this whole thing just opens up a huge question, doesn't it? If a story as famous as this one is really a blend of different texts and later ideas, what other stories that we take for granted might be built more on tradition than on the original text itself? It kind of makes you want to go back and read everything again for yourself.